Video is going to talk about how to write strong introductions for academic essays. So to be clear, we're going to talk specifically about academic essays for undergraduate college assignments. There are a lot of different ways to introduce other types of essays or longer essays, but we're going to focus on the kind of structure and recognizable introductions that your college professors will likely be expecting of you. So what makes a strong introduction? The introduction is your first impression, so a strong introduction is going to be clear and concise and really pull the reader in. It's going to establish a purpose for the essay to come. It's going to gain interest for the reader, and really importantly, it's going to prepare the reader for what is coming. So your introduction is kind of the thing that gets your reader ready. It should be super, super clear, and it should match everything else that comes later. There are a few parts to an introduction. You want to get the audience's attention first, introduce the topic, explain its relevance to the reader, state your thesis or your purpose, that would be your argument that you're making, and preview the main points you'll make later in the essay. These are all really important because these are everything that your reader is going to need to know in order to be ready for what you're about to deliver in the pages to come. So let's start with grabbing the audience's attention. So I'm sure that you've heard a lot of different ways to do a hook or a way to grab attention. Like you could ask a question, or you could give a quote, or you could say an anecdote. But the thing that a lot of people miss is that you can't just do those randomly. To get the audience's attention, you have to select an attention getter that is appropriate to and for your audience. And more importantly, it has to be specifically related to the topic of your argument. So let's think about this. If you are writing a college level academic essay and part of your audience is your professor, it's probably not going to be super appropriate to do a dictionary definition of a term that audience would likely already know and understand. It also might not be really relevant to ask multiple questions at the beginning of an essay. So you want to make sure that those two things are absolutely matching all of your other points: purpose, context, and audience. Then you need to think about what very basic background information your audience needs to understand the rest. And you got to figure out, why should your audience care about any of this? So once you've established that you have your audience's attention and you've given a little bit of background, you want to present the thesis or your argument and preview your organization. So make sure you clearly state your argument or purpose for the essay. You're not writing a novel. You don't need to tease them with what's to come. Go ahead and just state it straight outright what you're trying to do in this essay so that they're ready to accept that information, and when it pops up, then they're ready for it. You want to preview what else you're going to cover so that if you tell them to expect A, B, C, and D from your essay, they're ready for A, B, C, and D. And the biggest thing is your introduction should be used to prepare your reader. Now, as I said before, there are variations to how you can write an introduction. A lot of the essays we're reading for class don't follow this particular format. In fact, we're reading essays for class where the thesis doesn't come until the end. That is totally possible, but one of the things you really want to keep in mind as you're writing academic essays for a college class audience is the reasons you're writing and the reasons for other variations. So you want to consider your audience's expectations. And usually in college classes, the expectation is this kind of very traditional way of starting off where your thesis is going to come first. If you're going to vary from that, you can, but you have to be aware that everything else has to be even stronger to get your reader through the essay. So let's take a look at an example. So this is the first paragraph from First Year Composition Prepares Students for Academic Writing, an essay we've already read in class. In this particular example, the writer starts with an anecdote. I have a memory that sticks out in my mind, and he talks about how he's at the dentist, and the dentist's like, "Oh, better watch my grammar because you're an English teacher." This anecdote works because of the audience and purpose of the original publication. That publication is intended for people who teach English and have taken English courses. I don't think I know a single English teacher who hasn't had this exact thing happen to them, right? Where somebody finds out that they're an English teacher, an English professor, and the other person's like, "Uh-oh, better watch my grammar." And you're standing there going, "I don't care about your grammar." Likely, you might have said this to somebody when you find out, or thought to yourself, oh no, this person's an English teacher, they're going to correct my grammar. So it immediately catches the audience's attention because it's something recognizable. Then it gives the reason and the background. It talks about the reason is because of a particularly bad idea about writing. It talks about that bad idea has been around for a long time. In fact, it's been around for 40 years. And that it hasn't kind of let up. And it gives the they say, right? It prepares, the they say is that there's a lot of people who believe that first year writing is a basic course in grammar and syntax that prepares students for something called academic writing and the more legitimate courses. So it's really previewing that they say, it's establishing what conversation they are going to be addressing, and it establishes why it's important. And then finally, towards the end of that first paragraph, we get the writer's own understanding, which is, however, such an antiquated view of what first-year writing is and can be only scratches the surface of the kinds of learning possible in a writing classroom. So they give the they say, the background, and then the I say. So as you're thinking about the introductions for the essays you write for this class and other classes, you want to make sure that you're thinking about hitting those 5 points, that you're capturing the reader's attention in a way that is appropriate to your specific audience, context, and purpose, giving enough background that you give the conversation that you're writing into, and that you explain to your reader why that conversation is important to your reader. And finally, finishing up with your thesis so that they're ready for your argument as the paper progresses. So I hope this has helped you kind of conceptualize